Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Terry Martin, Executive Director of the Illinois Channel. And, you know, everything in this under the sun, it seems like, has been negatively impacted by the coronavirus in this weird world. And one of the unfortunate things that's been negatively impacted is the blood supply available here in Illinois and around the nation. And earlier today, we spoke with Margaret Vaughn, who represents one of the organizations who is in the process of collecting blood. She told us about the critical need for blood donors at this time. And we wanted to make sure we bring that to your attention because, after all, it impacts all of us. So here she is, Margaret Vaughn, talking about the need for blood donors. We'll hope you'll listen and consider becoming a donor yourself. Thanks for joining us.
Well, across the state right now, it's a critical level. The need is some areas of the state have less than a one-day supply, depending on the type of blood. Others have a 2 to 3 day supply, but there is a current urgent need for blood, very critical. How we got into this situation kind of dates back to February, March, when the COVID crisis first hit. 60% of the blood is collected out in the field at community blood drives. Those blood drives all had to be canceled with people working from home, with college campuses, high school campuses closing. So those units that they were used to collecting out in the field were not coming in. They put a tremendous strain on the blood supply. We did a big outreach back in March at the time when COVID first hit. We did have an overwhelming response. A lot of people came out to donate blood. At that point, the need kind of went down because of the elective surgeries were kind of put on hold. There was less travel. However, when phase 3 opened in May and the elective surgeries started up again, people started going back to their doctors. At this point, however, they had put off going, so now they were sicker. The surgeries that are taking place are more complex. Everyone's still working from home. The college campuses are closed. The high schools are closed. A lot of the churches, it's limited. So the blood drives out in the field are still not happening the way they should. And so that's what's really caused the blood centers to have such a decline as far as the supply. There's a lot of misconceptions out there that, you know, groups that ordinarily would have blood drives 4 to 6 times a year, like, oh, no, we can't have them because, you know, we can't have people inside. That's not true. Blood is considered an essential service, both by the Centers for Disease Control and the Department of Public Health. It was never it's never considered a social gathering, you know, so even at the height of the closure of everything, it was not subject to the 10-person limit. However, there are very stringent requirements for blood collection as far as COVID. Everything all of the beds have to be 6 feet apart. You have to take your temperature before you go in. Everything is sanitized between donations. And you have to remember that these blood centers already are highly regulated by the federal government, and there were already very heavy-duty sanitation requirements and guidelines in line already. On top of that now, even more so with COVID. So, and they also stagger the donation times, so you don't have 50 people, you know, sitting in a waiting area at once. They have it down to a science, you know, the way they get people in and out and through. But the really big thing they need is for community leaders to come out and host drives. And the communities, groups and that have been doing them, the churches, we really need to have those drives back. A lot of the churches, you know, it's kind of limited right now. They are opening the churches up again, you know, with reservations for mass times and that. But it's kind of a mixed bag as far as them opening them up for the.
Is there more of a demand? I'm going to presume there are regions, or does the organization you're representing, does it, if I give blood in Springfield, would it be perhaps used in Chicago, or does it kind of stay within a region? And if it does stay within a region, are there regions of the state that are more critical need than others?
Well, the community blood centers, and there's basically 4 major ones in Illinois. They all belong to America's Blood Center. So if you want to donate blood or get involved with having a blood drive, you would go to americasblood.org, put in your zip code, and they will connect you with your closest blood center. The blood collected by community blood centers does stay locally in the communities and the hospitals that they serve. Versity, it used to be Heartland Blood Center. It's up in the Chicago area, as is Vitalent, which used to be Life Source. Up in the Rockford, Northern Illinois area, we have Rock River Valley Blood Center. They have a extremely low supply right now. They said that some of their, depending on the blood type, like less than a day's supply. In central Illinois, there's the Central Illinois Community Blood Center and Community Blood Services that's out of Springfield, Community Blood Services out of Champaign, but they all fall under, those last two I named, fall under Mississippi Valley Regional Blood Center. So, but if you go to americasbloodcenters.org, they can connect you to whatever blood center is closest. The community blood centers supply blood for over 70 hospitals in the state, and there is a high demand everywhere. Like I said, Rockford is very, very critical right now with less than 1 day supply, but the other blood centers, like in the Chicago area, they have more hospitals they serve, they have more patients they serve, same thing for some of these big areas in Peoria and Springfield, so they have a high demand there as well.
And I think one of the things, two questions here. One, how often can one give blood? And secondly, when someone donates blood, it's put into storage. It's like a blood bank. But how long? It's not like everything. You can't keep raw chicken in your refrigerator for 6 months. What's the shelf life of the blood that's donated?
Yeah, that's the problem. The blood only has a 42-day shelf life. So
say it again. How many days?
42 days.
Okay.
It's not very long. So everyone that came out in March to donate, that was great, but we need them to come out again because that blood only has a 42-day shelf life. You can donate blood every 56 days. The other thing we need, and we're helping with people that have been infected with the coronavirus, once they're recovered, if they come and donate, they take the blood sample, the convalescent plasma it's called, and then it's used in research for the COVID virus.
When we donate blood, how long does it typically take? And does it matter? I mean, what kind of health does one have to be in? If you had the flu a month ago, I mean, are there different things that would eliminate you, or does the blood center say, come on in and we'll know whether or not you can give because we'll do some minor testing?
Right. Well, you have to be 16 with parental consent, 17 otherwise. You have to weigh at least 110 pounds. So I know that's challenging for some of you out there, but there's a list of questions on the sites of the different blood centers, and you can even on some of the sites you can go and you can do the health screening kind of prior to the donation, and also that day too, to see if you have any health conditions or whatever that have popped up in the past couple of days, or you're just not feeling well. So as far as whether you are eligible or not, since there's all different types of health issues, it'd probably be best to look on their website or call the local blood center, and they can tell you up front. Again, if you come down with a cold or you're on a short-term medication or whatever, it doesn't automatically mean that you're not eligible. But you can do like a screen. You can start that screening that day of the donation, and then that cuts down the time you're in the center. The whole process itself only takes really like about an hour, and that's counting the health screening. It's counting the donation time. The time they're actually drawing the blood is only about 10 minutes long. And then afterwards, they want you to stick around for a little bit and have a snack to kind of make sure that everything's okay. So it really doesn't take, it's not like a half a day or something like that. It would be, about an hour of your time. But I mean, my God, the impact you can make on someone to, save a life. A single donation can save up to 3 lives. And right now, a lot of people have extra time on their hands. A lot of people working from home. There's limited entertainment options. Everyone's going online and seems to have an opinion about everything. This is a way that you can really go and save lives and really make a difference in your community. Like you said,
you'd hate to have someone die who could have easily been saved, but they just didn't have blood. The hospital didn't have the blood to use in an operation or so. Let me ask, maybe you said it and I missed it. I know you said you have to be, I think you said over 16, was it, to give blood? Is there an upper age range? Do they stop taking blood from you at a certain age?
I would say probably, again, it would depend on your health. I don't think that there's a specific cutoff per se.
So if you're willing to donate, go in and if they'll tell you whether or not you can give blood, I guess.
Right, and we recommend going online first and scheduling the appointment. So it could be, like I said, staggered out. What we really need, though, is like I said, the communities, the businesses, and especially the churches, the community groups that have been holding blood drives that have been canceling them because they think that it's not an essential service. They think they can't have them because it's a social function. They're not social functions. They are essential services. They were never under the restriction of 10 people or under. They fall under very strict government guidelines, and everything is very staggered. There's very strict guidelines they follow as far as the sanitation and taking people's temperatures and doing the health screening. So it's a very safe environment. The Blood Center also has a certificate of insurance and accepts all the liability for the drive, so people don't have to worry about that. I will say I reached out to all my legislator friends, and about 35 of them have volunteered to have blood drives this summer. Some of them are already they're on their second and third drive. So I really appreciate their help. They've really, come out of the woodwork and have gone to bat for their communities in that regard. So we'd like to encourage others to do the same for, mayors, other, community leaders, county board members to get involved. And when you have a blood drive, you don't need 100 people. If you can get 30 people together, maybe identify maybe like a VFW hall or a school gym or township facility or government office. They would need about 800 to 1,000 feet of space.
One would think maybe they're still just as virtually in business, so to speak, but they could still organize it. We would encourage everyone to do that. We have the website there, americasblood.org. People, again, can go to that site, put in your zip code, and it'll tell you where you can donate blood. If I have that right, Heather?
That's correct. Yes, and I think it's important to mention too. There's been a lot of focus on the African American population this summer, and blood is always needed in that African American community. There's diseases like sickle cell, and lupus, and hypertension, prostate cancer that have higher rates in the African American communities. And it's very important that when they donate, when they need a transfusion, that match is compatible. And the most likely compatible match and less likely to have a reaction is someone with the same ethnic background. However, from the nation's blood supply, only about 3% of that is made up of African American blood. So it's very important that African Americans come out and donate. And folks that suffer from sickle cell anemia, they need transfusions on a continual basis. The problem is the more transfusions you have, the more difficult it is to find a compatible match. So it's very, very important that those in the African American community come out to donate blood. All the violence we've been having in Chicago, just to kind of give you an example, a single trauma victim can go through 100 units of blood just in one 24-hour period. So that blood has to be on the shelf, needed, ready to go. I always say the blood used in the 9/11 attacks was donated in August. So you just can't wait for the accident and think, oh, well, if something goes wrong, we'll go down to donate. That blood needs to be on the shelf, tested, ready to go, and be a compatible match.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I remember on 9/11, I went to give blood, and the line was like 2 hours long. And it was pointed out to me, and as we have already discussed, you can't store the blood indefinitely. So a lot of the blood that was donated, because you had all of a sudden everyone wanting to do something, a lot of that blood, unfortunately, was probably ended up being thrown out because it had exceeded the shelf life. So you do need to have this cycle of donating. How often in a course of a year can one give blood, did you say?
8 times every 56 days.
Okay. Before we close out, is there anything else we should mention, or?
Well, unfortunately, we really don't see the end coming anytime soon with these problems we're having, because we're afraid going into the fall now that a lot of the high school and colleges campuses, there might be restricted as far as their attendance. And we do rely very strongly on the collections at those campuses. So the more people continue to work from home, the more restrictions are at the schools, the more problems we anticipate. However, that does not mean that you cannot have a blood drive. So that's really the call for action. We need community leaders to step up, people that already have their drives scheduled, people that have been doing drives for years on a regular basis, and churches in particular. But please continue to have them. Lives are at stake in your communities if you don't.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.